and honey flow. No chill on trees that move won't grow. There are rocks and hills and hills with milk and honey. When's no poisonous breath can reach that healthful shore, where sickness and sorrow, pain and death are felt and feared no more. When shall I reach that happy place and be forever blessed? When shall I see my Father's face and in His bosom rest? No chilling winds, no poisonous breath can reach that healthful shore, where sickness and sorrow, pain and death are felt and feared no more. Filled with delight, my raptured soul would here no longer stay. Though Jordan's waves around me roll, with no fear I'd launch away. No chilling winds, no poisonous breath can reach that healthful shore, where sickness and sorrow, pain and death are felt and feared no more. No chilling winds, no poisonous breath can reach that healthful shore, where sickness and sorrow, pain and death are felt and feared no more. Are felt and feared no more.
Nothing that's as real as the love that's in my mind. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. There's lots of things along the road I'd surely like to see. I'd like to lean into the wind and tell myself I'm free. But your softest whispers louder than the highways have called to me. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while. Close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while.
Check, check, check. Good afternoon. We're going to get started the right way. There's no wrong way. The Solstice Band is going to lead us in a prelude of Here Comes the Sun.
I thought you said we were going to start the right way. Check, check, check. Okay. Forgot how to start. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Little darling, the smiles returning to our faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Sun, 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 here it comes. 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 Little darling, I feel the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Nathan to come forward and light our chalice with some chalice lighting words. These words come to us from Lori Gorgas-Laban. And she says, birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is a loss of light, but no less an act of courage, for we are born from and return to mystery. So welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, your officiant today. And we're gathered here today because one we have loved and been loved by, Garry Klepser, has died. Grieving is its own music and its own dance. We remember joy and beauty and love just as surely as we feel sadness and loss and separation. There is no right or wrong way to say goodbye to a loved one or to grieve their loss, just as there is no one way to celebrate the unique mark left on the universe of our hearts. So I invite you to be here in this moment, in this place. Take a deep breath if you need it. Let it out. Notice the love in this space holding you, sharing this moment. We gather in grief and gratitude, prepared to celebrate a life well lived. We gather as a circle of family and friends, a circle that is both wide and like a well, also deep. To our friends and loved ones, we shall give the most worthy honor and tribute, if we never say nor remember that they are dead, but rather that they have lived, that thereby the force and flow of their action and work may be carried over the gulfs of death and be made immortal in the true and earthly life which they had worthily used. The dead are not dead if we have loved them truly. In our own lives, we give them immortality. Never are our loved ones so powerful to influence and inspire us than after death has withdrawn them from us. Then we feel with a new intensity the elements of sweetness and love in their lives. And they take their place like stars in the night sky, watching over us. Today we will offer stories and songs and weave a tapestry of gratitude for Garry's life. And we begin with a reading from J.R.R. Tolkien.
Good afternoon, friends, family, wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving, whoever you are, welcome. I'm Craig Anderson. I am Katie's husband and Gary's son-in-law. A reading from the Book of Bilbo. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that meant comfort. Garry was passionate about nature, about friends, and about fantasy literature. Asimov, Bradbury, Vonnegut, H.G. Wells, Arthur C. Clarke, and Gentry Lee, and of course, J.R.R. Tolkien. They gave him, well, comfort. His passion was inspiring to us all. In fact, he seduced me into several series of science fantasy novels, and to be quiet and take a walk in the woods. That is only part of his legacy.
We have some remembrances from Jane and Katie and another reading from Ben. They can come forward now.
Good afternoon. My name is Jane Metcalf. I am Gary's sister, and it's my honor to be here with you today. I'd like to first of all thank so many of you in the room who I've not had the pleasure to meet yet. Following Gary's passing, I received beautiful cards from people I don't know but who knew and loved Garry. These cards filled with beautiful memories shared just to let me know how he touched so many lives, provided so much comfort to me during one of the most traumatic times in my life. Please know how much I appreciate your acts of kindness towards someone you didn't know, I'm going to hold on to those cards forever. Living life as Gary's big sister was a joy. I'm 12 years younger than Garry, but he always called me his big sis. I don't have many memories of Garry as I grew up in my youth because of that age difference, and I arrived on the scene when Garry was 12 and my other brother was 7. I was an unexpected and, in their worlds, a very unwelcome newcomer. I'm told Garry, being the oldest, could escape me because Mom kept him busy with help around the house because she was a stay-at-home mom. He had school activities and he had church activities. My brother Dan, on the other hand, was pretty much stuck with me because Mom would send him out on the streets and push me in the buggy. And word has it that he was caught several times intentionally hitting those bumps in the sidewalk and causing great pain to his little sister. A treasured remembrance I carry in my mind is Garry singing in our church choir during his high school years every Sunday. My parents and I always sat in the balcony, so we had a bird's eye view of the pulpit and the church choir, which sometimes did not work to Garry's advantage, as he on occasion would forget where he was, and he and a buddy sitting next to him would get lost giggling and have giggling fits and poking each other, and just because they could. But I kind of enjoyed that because I knew once we get home after church, I'd get to witness a real talking to from my mom or dad to Garry. But he did look fine in that church choir robe. It was maroon with an ivory sash, and he was a very handsome young man, so suited him well. It warms my heart to think church choir in his teens in part fostered his love of participating in choirs throughout his life. Speaking of looking quite fine, Garry was quite the vision in his military attire. I'm sure as you walked around, and if you noticed the pictures in the back of the room, you saw the picture of him in his fine uniform. Our mom was a warrior. Excuse me, she fretted over everything. And even more so when Garry and my brother Dan joined the military. My brother Garry was in the armed forces, Dan was in the Air Force. But she took comfort when Garry and Connie were stationed in Germany for a couple of years, and they had the luxury of being able to travel throughout that land, and often shared pictures and postcards and letters with her, which provided her great comfort. Once Garry was out of the service and settled down, many trips were made with my mom and dad to visit Garry, Connie, and Katie. We lived in Ashland, Ohio, so we would make trips to visit them. Garry and Connie always made sure we were included in all of their family celebrations. Family was top of mind for him. Little in life made him happier than being surrounded by those he loved, right up until his last breath, as several of us witnessed. What am I most thankful for having known and loved Garry? First of all, Garry's interaction with the human race. Excuse me. I was blessed to witness Garry and Dan as they outwardly deeply cherished friends and family. Garry did not take those close to him for granted. When you were in his presence, you felt he was fully focused on you. His joy when family was gathered together or just hanging out with friends was totally evident and infectious. I've hoped throughout my life that I might evoke even a modicum of the intentional and genuine care Garry and Dan have had for so many people throughout their lifetimes. Secondly, my and my daughter Mari's love of reading. Garry was an avid reader. He loved not only to read, but to share his passion for reading with others. He so enjoyed talking about his most recent read, and all the better if you'd read the same book so the two of you could dissect what was good, bad, and indifferent. I remember getting into thought-provoking discussions with him on several occasions, and sometimes those discussions would get pretty heated because I might have one opinion in the book and he'd have another. early on in my childhood, I loved to read, or I liked to read. But then Garry introduced me to J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, and it was all over. That just started out to me what turned into a lifelong love of reading. And all the more because that was the book, probably out of most, that Garry and I and Mari would often go back to and talk about, and with such a joy. When I learned I was pregnant with my daughter Mari, I began reading to her throughout my pregnancy. That was her first introduction to The Hobbit. Her love of books at a very young age was so evident, and she continues to this day to be an avid reader, thanks in large part to Garry. I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm publicly going to make a statement that I will reattempt to conquer the reading of the Silmarillion. And why now am I making this public statement? It's actually lovely for me to think this, but I'm feeling Garry is challenging me to do so. I'm hearing, keep those thought-provoking discussions going, big sis. I'll get through the Dune first, and then I'll do the Silmarillion. But I'm going to do it. Finally, we can thank Garry and Connie for Katie. For Katie. They didn't hear that. She carries on Garry's legacy of loving kindness to all she meets. If you are loved by Katie, you experience a love that has no end. She lifts you up to soar. As we gather here today, you are experiencing Garry shining through and present. Katie has made it so because of her deep love for her dad. That love will never end, and Garry's love for Katie will never end. Let me close with a sentence from The Hobbit that I believe speaks to Garry's character. I have found that it is the small, everyday deed of ordinary folks that keeps the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love.
Aunt Jane, that was not fair. Not fair at all. Okay. I'm going to try to keep it together here, but in case I'm not, I'm prepared. Let me grab my water first. Okay. Thank you, family, friends, and friends that have become family to us, especially to my dad. Who are we kidding? Everyone became family to my dad. We want to honor my dad in all the ways that he was. Serious, but silly. Always ready for a good cry, but even more for a big laugh. Strong, but a big softie. We all know that about him. I hope after what he hears what I have to say today, he smiles down on us, or up, depending on where his final judgment landed him. Pictures show how much family meant to my dad, but what you don't see is how he made you feel. My dad always made me feel like the most special girl. Hostess Twinkies were one of my favorite junk foods when I was growing up in my parents' house. Most often, if he needed to run an errand or make a stop after work, he walked in the door with Twinkies for his special girl. He taught me all about Ohio State football on Saturdays while eating fried bologna sandwiches. He taught me to change a tire before I drove into Chicago for the first time on my own. He whooped with joy when I told him I applied for a master's in library science. And he beamed with happiness when Craig and I fell in love. I'm sure my parents would still be married today if they'd both lived long enough. They rarely argued, but when they did, I always thought my dad must be right because I was Daddy's little girl. Now that I've been a wife for 32 years, I realize my mom probably was right. Or it was just menopause. You can only imagine the pride and joy his grandchildren brought him. Most of you know him because of them, because we moved to California and he needed to follow. And then in 2019, the Union of the Ohio Klepsers and the California Andersons, 3 generations, our travel together with the virtual phone calls and group texts meant so much to him. I don't think any of us knew how much we needed each other. But like I said, friends were family to him as well. Old friends from high school, friends from the Army, friends from every place we lived, friends of friends, and friends of mine. And then along came Facebook. I hope you all know how much he loved you. There are a few defining ways I think my dad has influenced my life, and it started with the love of reading. He loved reading and led by example. His choice and favorites have influenced several of you. Talking about what we're reading never got tiring. While I was focused on literature for children and young adults as a school librarian, I so enjoyed hearing about what he was reading, sometimes with a little envy too. He'd show up at our house with a stack of books he'd finished and thought I'd like. Also, as a librarian, I was frustrated that he had to buy every book ever published. Come on, Dad, your daughter is a librarian. Mariana, by the way, thank you so much for helping get rid of those books in different hands and raise money for Friends of the Library. We got them after all. Music. I doubt there are a few people in this room that don't know my dad loved music. What I love in particular about his passion is that it knew no bounds. Musicals, choral, and wow, he could harmonize with the Eagles better than any of the Eagles. Driving around Valparaiso, Indiana, listening to my dad sing, don't tell him, but I'd put on his Fleetwood Mac, Fleetwood Mac, Linda Ronstadt, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash records at home when he wasn't around, trying to sing as well as my dad. It didn't work. When Craig, my husband, was a student at DePaul School of Music, he asked if I wanted him to give me singing lessons. And watching my dad sing the Hallelujah Chorus at Valparaiso University's chapel is something I will never forget. The church choir was always the catalyst for making new friendships. Golf. I learned the game from my dad. It's been so long since we played together that I don't remember how good he was. But I do know the record for holes in one is 2 me, 0 him. Bowling. My mom and dad were in a league for as long as I know. That's probably when I'd pull out his records and sing at the top of my lungs. We had a blast bowling in summer leagues with my son Jack once he moved to California, and we even brought home a few plaques. I take no credit. The value of hard work and commitment. Dad had a long list of careers. college bookstore and retail management. Remember Woolworths? And auto sales and service. This white-collar guy even did some time in the steel mills of Garry, Indiana. Those days really provided some stories. I'm lucky to have had one career for 28 years. My dad was so proud and probably didn't know how much he inspired me to work hard, do my best, and stay committed. Finally, he firmly believed in giving service to your community. He was actively involved in the Valparaiso JCs, serving on the board and eventually a term as president. Those days have some stories too. How many of you knew his JC's chapter held the record for building the world's largest popcorn ball? Each night after work and dinner, they'd meet up for an evening of chicken wire and popcorn. Eventually, that popcorn ball rolled down the main street on a flatbed truck in Valparaiso's Popcorn Festival parade, and the rest is history. He also worked on local political campaigns, sometimes recruiting me and my friends to run election results as they came in. This was before mail-in ballots, voting machines, and dangling chads. Once he found Unitarian Universalism, that was another opportunity for him to serve his community. My family and I can't thank the VUU congregation for the support, help, and hospitality hosting us today. I especially want to thank Reverend Sarah, who has been so kind and patient, as I was always late in getting things to her. The sentiments expressed in cards, messages, Facebook comments universally reflect who my dad was. And these are direct quotes. A splendid gentleman, a wonderful soul, a sweet man full of laughter and love, a genial and gentle soul. And finally, a dear friend of mine said, "I'm much better for having known him." Indeed.
Hello. My name is Ben, and I'm going to try not to cry. My wife and I have had the pleasure, well, actually, let me start over. My name is Ben, and I have had the pleasure of having Garry, or Uncle Garry, as my uncle, and it's been tremendous. And on behalf of my wife and the rest of the Ohio Buckeyes, Klepsers, I really want to thank you, Katie and Craig, for this opportunity. I do have to deviate from the script a little bit. I always thought my dad was the funniest man alive, and upon just hearing all of these kind words, he had a lot of help from my uncle, sharpening that skill. So I appreciate it, and I'm honored to lead this congregation in the Lord's Prayer, so if you'll bow with me, and if not, that's fine too. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come and your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we have also forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hear another song from the Solstice Band. I invite you to just sit with these beautiful memories. We'll have a few more remembrances in a moment, but just a moment to rest in all of the stories we've heard and all the ones that we're carrying in our hearts.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and sit and listen to the priest reading from the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. The only little difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus turned the water to wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I just can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. Now the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath. I'm swimming in a sea of it. There used to be a world out there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I'm walking with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face. That's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come. Say that's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember those chords let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. There used to be a world out there, heaven second-rate hand-me-down. Now I'm walking in a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
So we have some remembrances that Rick Henricks, Joanne McGrath, and Mariana are going to offer, and I invite all three of you up. There's a couple seats if you want to wait up here.
I'm saying these words on behalf of Sabina Norman, who wrote these words. Garry, my friend, companion, love, and gentle person, I miss you. So much of the time I feel like I am treading water, gasping for breath in your absence. We met at VUU, and we both knew our futures would somehow mesh. Thank you for helping me with my Santa Fe decision. I'm so happy you made it out here for a visit. You were even thinking of moving out here, but it wasn't It just wasn't in the cards. Dear one, you did it your way, and I pray that it is everything you hoped for and more. P.S. Your little buddy Maria misses you too, and sends you a couple of sloppy, wet licks.
Good evening. I'm Mariana Baston, and I'm here representing what we call the Panera Coffee Group. You'll find many of the members over here in the third and fourth row on this side. And I'm going to tell you about how that got started and Gary's role in it. I met Gary at the Tumbleweed Recreation Center in a Silver Sneakers exercise class. And there's a group of us, most of the people here in the coffee group, that got to know each other. And after class, we started going out for coffee. So hence, the coffee group. No one seems to remember exactly how Gary joined the group, but the general feeling is that he was just so easy to be around that we just sort of adopted him. In preparing for today, I asked people in the group for their thoughts on Gary and was told over and over how kind he was, how he rarely said a bad word about anyone or anything, although he could come out with a good zinger once in a while. And Gary was always willing to help. What I liked about Gary best was his open and positive spirit. Ask him for help, and the answer was always yes. And Gary was up for anything. So this would be me talking. Hey, Gary, let's go do this. Sure. Hey, Gary, let's go do that. Sure. Gary was always willing to be there. His answer was always yes. The coffee group started expanding and started doing more and more things together, like parties, City of Chandler senior trips, hikes, walks, bocce ball, mahjong, pickleball, and more. And Gary was always excited and grateful to be part of it all. The one time, Gary and I were on a City of Chandler senior trip to Waterwheel Falls near Payson. And we barely started up the dirt trail to the falls when the path turned to rock and started to ascend. Wisely, Gary decided he couldn't go on, so he stayed behind. I did go on, and when I got back over an hour later, rather than sitting there sulking or being mad about missing the hike, he was happy. Like, what went on? Well, he'd spent that time talking to people and watching them fish, and that was enough to make Gary happy. One time, I had put earnest money down on a new build house and then changed my mind, and I was just like going back and forth. I didn't know what to do, and I was totally stressed out. I couldn't sleep. I was a wreck. So the solution I came up with was that I was going to go to a dispensary and get some gummies. And I had never done anything like that before, and I was like embarrassed by it and a little bit afraid. I needed some moral support to even go over there and do it. So I asked Gary to go with me, and of course he did. There we were in the line at the Sticky Saguaro and Riggs with all the 20-somethings waiting to get in. When asked about Gary, Terry Buffington said Gary was a ladies' man. And I was like, what? Gary wasn't a ladies' man. In my mind, a ladies' man is a player, somebody who's playing the women. And she said, no, that's not what I mean. She said, he was comfortable in the company of women. He could be the only man in a sea of women and have no problem with that. Some examples, we briefly had a book discussion group, all women and Gary. We started a mahjong group, initially all women and Gary. So Gary was never afraid to be the odd one out. And speaking of mahjong, Gary had a favorite lucky mahjong hand. If you play mahjong, you know a lot of it is just random chance. But Garry could somehow get the same hand and win with it over and over. It mystified everybody. And we'd be playing, and Garry yell across the room to me, guess what? And I'd say, lucky hand? Yep. And everybody in the room would groan because they had all been beaten by the lucky hand before. I guess you could say that Garry was my buddy, and I miss him. I think all of us in the coffee group miss Garry. But I think of Garry every time I see his silver Kia Soul go by, and there's a lot of those out there, so I'll think of him often. Rest in peace, buddy.
My name is Joanne McGrath, and I offer some remembrances of Garry from some of his closest friends in the choir, specifically from his friends in the Teakwood group. This group started many years ago, going for a beer after choir practice at the Teakwood bar down the street. Garry joined in with that Teakwood group about the same time he joined the choir here, sometime in 2015. So 9 years of deep friendships with his choir buds. His choir buddies in the bass section say they depended on him, and he did not let them down. He was a dedicated and reliable choir member, always attended practice, and always sang for the services. He sang in Cabaret, which is the VUU's annual musical fundraiser / talent show. Once he sang a duet with Jim Nielsen as the Never Lee Brothers, and another time he added a little silliness by impersonating one of the Smothers Brothers. When the pandemic hit and the choir was unable to meet in person, our tech guru, Jim Nielsen, helped the Teakwood group gather on that new social platform called Zoom. And that's how they maintained their relationships and important connection. They gathered by Zoom once a week for about a year and a half or so. This was truly a cherished time together. But after such a long time, this group missed singing together so much that they decided to gather in person and sing their favorite songs. Garry was right in there with all the rest of these rule breakers. Eventually, other choir members joined these unofficial sing-alongs and made music videos, which were offered to be shared at VUU services. This new group of singers called themselves the Teakwood Mini Choir. And Garry was one of those important lower voices in those videos and in that mini choir. One more deeply meaningful choir experience that Garry had carried in his heart was singing the Street Requiem with other UU choirs from across the valley. This choral piece is a collection of 10 different parts, 45 minutes of sung music, recognizing homelessness and memorializing the reality of living and dying on the streets. The music is beautiful, sad, haunting. Garry frequently stated he wished we could sing that music again. All we can say is that the world is less colorful with Garry gone. Godspeed, dear friend. We will always miss you. During Teakwood time, Garry would often speak of his favorite UU songs, Spirit of Life, Blue Boat Home, and Holy Now, and how much these songs meant to him. We hold Garry in high esteem as we sing some of his favorite songs today.
Well, there's never too much Tolkien, and so I want to invite Jack and Mari to come up with their reading.
I didn't think it would end this way.
And no, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back and all turns to silver glass, and then you see it.
What, Gandalf? See what?
White shores and beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise.
Well, that isn't so bad.
No, it isn't.
So I'm going to invite our choir members to come forward, the rest of you to stand as you're willing and able. We're going to sing Blue Boat Home, and we'll give everybody a moment to come forward. We're going to actually move the choir mics so the people online can hear folks who are singing up front, a chance to be able to hear our voices. So choir friends, come on down front, help lead this song with the Solstice Band. And Billy's going to move the mics for us. And the rest of you, the lyrics will be on the slides. And this will be a great way to pay tribute. stay up here with me for a moment because we're going to sing again together. I want to invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. You don't have to close your eyes for this one, but you can. Or you can let them be open to see the beauty and love around you, to notice the people here and the beauty of this day. When we pray, we are engaging something that is both personal and something communal, and our prayers are as diverse as each of us. Prayer is a moment of looking inward and a moment of reaching for the holy. Prayer can be urgent, born of our pain and grief or suffering. And prayer can be full of gratitude and acceptance, born of our sense of blessing and connection to the holy. Prayer can be a ritual that we carry with us like a tool we will use in the garden, necessary and concrete. And prayer can be a song, a smile, and a hand offered. When we pray together, it is all of these and more. It is an opportunity for us to honor the holy that we carry, share, and create by loving one another and seeking what is beyond measure and beyond words. Each of you in your own way, you are the prayer. So today, as you gather here to say goodbye to Garry and to turn to one another to share grief and to celebrate his life and the gifts received in having known Garry, may these prayers be woven together as a soft cloth that brings comfort, warmth, and peace. And may the colors of these memories and stories be vibrant and full of life, imbued with the spirit of the departed. And so we ask of you, loving presence, God of many names and no name at all, love that abides and place of refuge, walk with us as we grieve, listen to our stories, connect us in love and community, remind us of the beauty of creation and precious gift of life that you have bestowed on us. May we find that we feel lost because your gifts are the marrow of life. May we rediscover these gifts over and over in one another and in the places that hold us and keep us. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be. And today I invite you to join us in a ritual of remembrance. And choir, I may ask you to move just slightly to the right because I'm going to have people come to this table to the left of Anne. Yeah, perfect. We didn't get to block that out earlier. So beginning with Garry's family members gathered here, I'm going to invite you to come forward and place a stone in the water here, which will displace some water. This is a weeping bowl, and it weeps with us and also holds us, holds our prayers, our grief, our joy, our love. So as you drop your stone, you may wish to speak a word or two to Garry, to the holy, however you may name it. And we will sing Spirit of Life as Garry's family places their stones in the water. And then after they are done, we will invite all of you to do the same, and the Solstice Band will play one last song for us. I want to just mention that there are a couple of organizations that were important to Garry, and you heard a little bit about them. And if you want to make an offering to one of these three organizations, we would love it. You can do that on your own online, or you can leave something with the baskets at the front. Hospice of the Valley, Paz de Cristo, and of course Valley UU are all organizations that Katie said she would love for folks to make contributions if they wish to on behalf of Garry. And so now we sing.
thank Gary's family for asking us to be here. For some reason, Gary liked us, and he would show up at every show, and didn't matter where it was, how late it was, and we'd walk up and say, "Gary, it's so great to see you," and he'd say, "There's no place I'd rather be." You might think there's nothing left but ashes in a box on a table at Crosby's bar. But there's more than meets the eye. You didn't leave us when you died. Your spirit will live on in what we do and who we are. Aunt Betty's gonna tell us stories about the family. Daughter Susan's gonna sing your favorite song. Cousin Perry will ruin the day, telling tales of the blue and gray. And the solstice band will be picking all night long. We'll be putting down the brisket and tequila down in Kernville with the keepers of the flame. 'Cause a piece of you lives on, not only in this song, but in all the words you said and all the people that you made. And we'll go down to Maine and eat some clams and lobsters. Bite the worm in sunny Cancun Bay. We'll be home by Christmas Eve, telling tales you won't believe. And we'll swim in Barton Springs on New Year's Day. Well, Greg's gonna walk the sides up at Carlisle, bringing smiles just like you used to do. Uncle Dave's got a whiskey toast, and I'll be drinking from coast to coast. And your smiling face will live on in the heart of Widow Sue. We're gonna go up to Maine and eat some clams and lobsters. Fight the worm in sunny Cancun Bay. We'll be home by Christmas Eve, telling tales you won't believe. And we'll swim in Barton Springs on New Year's Day. We're gonna jump across the mighty Mississippi, way up north where it's just a little stream. Brother Bill's gonna make an eye on the kin you left behind. For you taught us how to live, and you taught us how to dream. We're gonna go up to Maine and bite off the heads of lobsters. Like a Cajun gone down to Frenchman's Bay. We'll be home by Christmas Eve, telling tales you won't believe. And we'll swim in Barton Springs on New Year's Day. I say we're gonna go up to Maine and suck on the heads of lobsters. Like Cajun going home to Frenchman's Bay. We'll be home by Christmas Eve, telling tales you won't believe. And we'll swim in Barton Springs on New Year's Day. Thank you, Gary. We love you.